Please welcome to the stage Daniel Macaulay, founder and CEO of Brandwave Marketing.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Portugal. Welcome to Lisbon. Welcome to Web Summit 2021 with real live people. Welcome to the Panda Conference stage. If you're into marketing, if you're into brand strategy, buyer behavior, if you're into consumer psychology, this is where it's at. Right here. For the rest of the day, you don't even need to check out the rest of the show. Right here is where you need to be. My name is Dan Macaulay, and I'm going to be your host all the way through till lunchtime. And I'm going to be introducing some of you guys to some of the foremost, most prominent, cutting-edge, leading minds in the world of marketing. The very, very best. I'm super excited about the lineup that we've got for you guys today. But before I do that, I've been asked to give opening remarks, and I guess what that means is I've been asked to set the scene for where marketing's at. Thematically, what are we going to be talking about today? And to do that, I've come up with a presentation that I call No Rules Marketing, the Game Changers Playbook. And that's my own interpretation, but what I mean by the game changers are the very best people, the very best brands in the world who are literally redefining what it means, what the word marketing means. And they are spending a lot less than what their competitors do, but in many instances, they're getting infinitely more return on their investment. They're getting exponential growth and much, much higher value to their brand. And I think what sort of links these brands together that I'm going to talk about is that they do the exact opposite of what I learned to do in marketing school. They do the exact opposite of what traditional marketing theory dictates. They do the exact opposite of what their competitors do in any given circumstance. And they do the exact opposite of what you and I expect them to do. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And I just want to give you guys a little bit of context first about where I'm coming from. I grew up in the world of sports, competing in different sports all around the world. I did a degree in marketing and a master's degree. And when I was quite young, I became the European marketing director of a surf brand called O'Neill from North California. And I did that for 4 years. And then 15 years ago, I founded a consultancy called Brandwave based in the UK and Germany. And in a nutshell, we do brand strategy for sports brands. Creative and strategic consultancy. And more recently, I co-founded a flip-flop brand called Foam Life, which is, in case anyone was wondering, why I'm wearing flip-flops. So it's good that, for me, I'm a specialist. I've spent my whole life within this industry. It's bad that it's quite insular. The sports industry that I come from, it's a bit of an echo chamber. A lot of people are the same. And the expression that we use when we're doing brand strategy is you can't read the label from inside the jar. And maybe, that's where a lot of people in the sports industry come from. And the big change for me was actually right here a couple of years ago when I was hosting on the sports stage, because this had been the first show that wasn't sports I've been to for a very long time. And I took the time to go and see the guys from the burger brands, the guys from the tech brands, the guys from the beer brands. And I thought, these guys are doing something really interesting. I can link it together, and I kind of came up with this game changer theory. So again, what is a game changer? A game changer is somebody who has a very clearly defined and articulated sense of purpose, but they can communicate that really well. It is a brand that has a very, very healthy relationship with risk, because they realize that if, the worst thing that happens is not to fail. The worst thing that could happen to you is not to try. And in order to innovate, you must take risks, and you must be prepared to fail, but to fail fast. And it is the brands that when something challenging happens to their industry or their brand or something negative, they look at it as an opportunity, and they are able to turn it around. And I guess, one of the key things is they're able to move fast. And this is something that you're going to see a lot today. I'm not talking about campaigns that take weeks and months and years. I'm talking about campaigns that take minutes and hours, sometimes even seconds to react. So to give you a bit of a framework over the next few minutes, I'm going to talk about three things. And I hope you're going to see these themes coming up again and again with our different speakers today. I'm going to talk about growth hacking. I'm going to talk about what I call advertising for PR. And I'm going to talk about what I call the proactive reactive. So on growth hacking, I've heard this mentioned quite a lot. Could I have a hands up here who knows what the word growth hacking means? I might pick on you to explain it. Actually, surprisingly few. I'm going to try it one more time. Can I have hands up who knows what the word growth hacking means? OK, not as many as I thought. So growth hacking is a term that's been around for a couple of years. I didn't invent it. I think it came from Silicon Valley. And it's kind of a broad term. And what it means is when you've got a less budget than your competitors, sometimes you're going to a very established industry, is you want to get much more return on investment than somebody else is going to get. And there's lots of ways to do that. Sometimes it's about things that were designed to go viral. Sometimes it's about creating communities. Sometimes it's just about a little bit of code on the internet. And a great example of someone who did this as a digital platform is Airbnb. Now, one of the most famous, one of the most replicated business models in digital. But at the time, that wasn't the case. When they first built it, they had a really good platform. And they were looking at it, and they weren't getting to where they wanted to go. And they said, well, what do we need? What do we not have? Our platform's great, our brand's great. And they realized we don't have the reach. We just don't have the reach. How are we going to get it? And instead of trying to get it themselves, they looked at their competitors, Craigslist. And they said, these guys have it. And what they did is they did a little bit of code, and they created this little blue button you can see here in the bottom of the screen. So you create your listing, and it posted to Craigslist. Well, pretty soon, people on Craigslist realize that they don't need to go to Craigslist. They can go straight to Airbnb, and the rest is history. So what they did is they used what I call OPAs, other people's channels, other people's resources, other people's equity in order to grow their marketing. That's growth hacking. The other theme that I want to talk to you guys about is what I call advertising for PR. Now, again, this is something I've seen with the really, really cutting-edge brands that are doing something completely different. They do the exact opposite of what traditional marketing theory dictates around advertising. Traditional advertising, maybe some of you guys do it, is you have your resources, time, money, people, and pretend it's like I love beer. Pretend it's a glass of beer. That's your resources. And what they do is they pour it into a baking dish. So it's very, very wide, but it's very, very shallow. They don't get a lot of traction. So traditionally, what people would do is they would spread it across, digital, out of home, print. They'd spread it across the products, they'd spread it across the months, and they say, look, we've got this breadth, but we don't have much depth. Advertising for PR does the opposite. They get all their resources, and they do it once. Sometimes it's just one ad at like the Super Bowl or in one prominent place, and it's so different. It's so innovative. It's so controversial that the public, that the media do the PR for them. And it's designed to be that way. So I'll show you a quick example. This is an ad for a new TV series in England about, I don't know, 6 months, a year ago. And one day I looked on my social media, and this was all over LinkedIn, everyone reposting it. And the ad is for a TV series called Dracula. And what they've done is, you can see, they've put these stakes in the billboard and a light, and as the sun drops, then it brings up the face of Dracula. And this was everywhere because it was innovative, because it was different. I watched the TV series. It was absolutely terrible. Don't watch it. But the point is, very, very good advertising. Another example, the marketing director of this brand is a really good friend of mine, Brewdog, super disruptive. They wanted to bring out an ad for something that's very middle of the road. Easy to do fast cars. You know, non-alcoholic beer is not very sexy, but they made the advertising so controversial that by the time the ASA, the Advertising Standards Authority, had complained, they'd already taken them down. It was up for a day, but it went viral as something really, really clever and different. Now, the next thing I'm going to talk about, proactive, reactive. This is interesting. It's kind of the opposite of PR. So traditional PR, the way that we do traditional PR, right, is that we create a narrative. We create a story. We package it all up with some videos and some picture and some copy, and we try to push it on the world. You know, we pump it out via our press desk, and we send it to all the news places, and we try to make them interested in our I don't know, our brand story, our product, our service, whatever it is. And we hope that the public, we hope that the media are going to pick up on it. Now, what I call the proactive reactive is, you know, I kind of had a dim view of this a few years ago. You know, I looked at like stunts, media stunts, publicity stunts, those kind of things, and yeah, I'm a bit of a marketing snob, so I thought that that was kind of a shitty way of doing marketing. But now I have a really different opinion, because it's not the little brands that you think might be doing this. It's actually some of the most you know, stable and sophisticated brands in the world that are doing this kind of marketing. And what they are doing is they're not necessarily creating the stories. They don't necessarily have a plan for the year. They're waiting every day. Some of them have dedicated teams just to do this, including legal teams. And they're waiting to see what is in the news that day or the next day. It could be something totally unrelated to their brand. It could be about religion or politics or environment or health or anything. And they say, okay, seemingly our product is unrelated to this. Let's create a link to this. So this is what SEO is looking for. This is what the media is looking at. This is what the public is looking at. Let's fish where the fish are. Let's go to where that story is. So it's easier to explain with some examples. This one really made me laugh a lot. This was a campaign, a collaboration between Adidas and Beyoncé. Now, obviously, Adidas, one of the largest sports outerwear brands in the world. Beyoncé, one of the largest performing artists, I think the largest performing artist in the world. So this was a big story. It was called Ivy League, I believe, or Ivy Park, I think it was. And it was on the cover of all the fashion magazines. Well, somebody at Sainsbury's had a look and says, do you know what? That new outfit looks a lot like the uniforms we give our staff here. And they did this post on Twitter in the Adidas font, the original, and it just went viral. It went absolutely crazy. And what they were saying was, if you want to look like this, you don't need to go spend loads of money on that. You can just have our uniform. And it's just one of the funniest things. But you know, people say we'll do this kind of marketing, but they're not set up to take that kind of risk. You have to have a lot of balls to do something like this. Another really good example is when, in the UK where I live at the moment, when Harry and Meghan decided that they didn't want to be royals anymore, and they said that they're going to move to Canada. The same day as the story came out, we have Expedia, the travel company, and they're running this ad, Escape the Family, trips to Canada. Super clever. This kind of stuff is interesting because I was saying, you know, what's off limits on this? You know, during the lockdown, during the first pandemic, I'm like, you know, there's a lot of messaging around social distancing. There's a lot of messaging around staying at home. And I said, is that off limits? You're talking about people's health here. And I had a quick look through the internet at which brands, you know, might be adopting that social distancing and staying at home stuff. And this is just some of the stuff that popped up. McDonald's, Burger King. I think this one was in Belgium. KFC, always do great marketing. IKEA? Adidas? Okay, so my final point before I start introducing you guys to our special guests. This is the cardinal sin. This is the worst thing you could do. Being beige, being vanilla. And this really upsets me because sometimes I meet the founders of the brands and they are so full of personality. They have defined their own set of values and they're able to articulate them and they have strong views on this and I have defined my values and I can articulate them and we can align together and I can say, I want to be with you. I believe what you believe. As Simon Sinek says, people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. And I look at their marketing and it's completely beige. They take no risks. And I think Forbes said the average North American consumer gets between 4,000 and 10,000 marketing messages a day. So if you are doing what I call Me Too marketing, then you're not going to get that cut through. And I think what we're going to see today, what I hope we're going to see from these speakers, is them talking about that. So that's all that I have time for. This is my email address. If any of you guys have any questions and want to discuss any of this further, I love this stuff, and I'm really, really happy to talk about it. That's my theory about game changing, talking about growth hacking, talking about advertising for PR, talking about the proactive, reactive. Now, our special guests this morning, and I think our first topic is something that I'm super interested in. I've heard a lot of speakers, talking about this. I think it's something super relevant to you guys, and that is, of course, sustainability. And I think as governments kind of abdicate responsibility and in a lot of cases just have slopey shoulders on this, is it time for brands to speak out and brands to step in and take action on this kind of stuff? So ready, backstage, we have Bloomberg's editor, Brian E. Collins, and we have the CEO of what is these days one of the fastest growing, coolest, and most sustainable brands, Veja, and that is Sebastian Kopp, ready to come out here and chat with you guys. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together, and we'll bring them on.